Akamai developers, and welcome back to our webinar series. This series aims to help our customers and partners have an easier way of solving technology challenges, as well as manage Akamai-as-code, manage Akamai-as-data, or integrate Akamai together with other tools and technologies in your digital ecosystem. Our webinar today will run for approximately 45 minutes, where we'll start with an intro to SIEM, then go into the Akamai SIEM integration, followed by a few demos. We're aiming to round out our main program in about 30 to 35 minutes to leave sufficient time for the question and answer session at the end. Feel free to share your questions in the Q&A box on the left. If you have any questions at a later stage or were unable to answer your question today, please let us know by reaching out by email. Our speakers for today are Mike Ellison, a developer advocate at Akamai Technology. Mike is an Akamai veteran with 10 plus years of experience consulting the largest companies in the world on their digital strategies and solution architecting. He aims to Akamaize as many digital applications by automating the process and by sharing his knowledge. Our other speaker is AJ Mishra, who is a Director of Security Technology and Strategy based in Tokyo, Japan. He is also an Akamai veteran of 8 years. That said, let's get started on our main topic today. Mitigate security threats with SIEM. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to send them to us in the Q&A section on your screen.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome all to today's webinar, focused primarily on DevSecOps. And I'm very excited to focus on security use cases as today's threat landscape is rapidly increasing at a rapid pace. Now, a security information and event management solution, or simply known as a SIEM solution, this can be an important part of any DevSecOps strategy. The ability to manage security threats by analyzing security events and creating visualizations and reports should lead to actions that help fine-tune the security posture for your infrastructure and help bolster the security of your applications, your APIs, your data, as well as other endpoints you might have. SIEM tools are often used to collect logs for origin servers, internal firewalls, or other different sources typically part of a customer's security infrastructure. And a SIEM tool typically has three main functions in most organizations. First is detecting the threats. And secondly, you have investigating those threats. And then thirdly is responding, or what we also like to call mitigating those threats. And SIEM tools were mainly designed to make the process of collecting, storing, and analyzing log data much easier. Regularly monitoring your security incidents and events can help maintain or strengthen that cybersecurity posture. Weaknesses and new exploits are used often to find a weakness in your infrastructure. Adapting to these security threats that continuously appear by monitoring is made easier with a SIEM tool. And on top of this, many companies today also rely on edge security from Akamai. On a daily basis, Akamai inspects billions of requests for our customers and filters out malicious traffic, which is targeting our customers' websites, APIs, data, and other endpoints. And we're adapting this with the latest threats and research and intelligence. Again, traditionally, Akamai has offered the ability for these customers to manage their security events and get insights through our UI, the Akamai Control Center. Tools like the Security Monitor or Web Security Analytics have been available to see what type of attack traffic Akamai has spotted or mitigated. Now, those tools are still available today, but with Akamai SIEM integration, you are now able to inject Akamai-as-data directly into your SIEM solution. If you use solutions such as Kona Site Defender, Web Application Protector, or Bot Manager, you can send security events generated on the Akamai platform directly into your SIEM, alongside security events from other sources. With the growth of DevSecOps and the adoption of SIEM tools, the need arose for customers to have direct access to these security events without having to manually log into Akamai Control Center. And this led to the launch of the Akamai SIEM integration. By integrating Akamai-as data with your SIEM tool of choice, security events that Akamai has inspected can be sent directly in real time to the tool that your security engineers already use in the way that they're used to reading, visualizing, and inspecting the data. Now, with the ability to have easy access to Akamai-as data, security engineers can take better action to mitigate the security threats that are present. Now, of course, with a finely tuned Akamai security configuration, Akamai will of course proactively mitigate these threats while still providing you and your security engineers first-hand knowledge of what is going on with your mission-critical applications and APIs to ensure that strong security posture and keep you up to date on what is happening. Now let's take a closer look at what Akamai SIEM integration is and what it consists of. Now, simply put, Akamai SIEM integration consists of two components, a collector and a connector. The security events collector is signaled by the Akamai Edge servers every time a security event happens for a particular security configuration. Now, this generates a security events, which is captured in JSON format, containing all the relevant information from that particular request and security event. This information can be collected from different Akamai solutions, again, Kona Site Defender, Web Application Protector, or Bot Manager. The collector stores data for up to 12 hours, so you can go back in time to retrieve your security events. Now, secondly, we have the SIEM connector. This is installed in your ecosystem, and the connector makes periodic calls to an available Akamai SIEM API endpoint, where, of course, after proper authentication, the JSON security events can be retrieved and sent to the relevant SIEM tool in your ecosystem. Now, Akamai has developed two SIEM connectors in collaboration with the leading SIEM vendors, Splunk and Common Event Format syslog, also known as CEF syslog. Of course, if you are using a different SIEM vendor, you can still create a custom connection by using the Akamai SIEM API directly, which we will explain in more detail later on. These SIEM connectors are wrappers that use the Akamai SIEM API and handle the proper authentication with that Akamai SIEM API. Now, authentication is very similar to many other Akamai endpoints and is called Akamai Edge Grid. If you've used any of the Akamai APIs before, it works very similar to that. Once an Akamai API client is created with permissions to the SIEM API and valid API credentials are generated, the client can then be used to request the security events directly from the API. And we will see this in more action in today's demo. If your SIEM tool is based on any of the main programming languages that Akamai supports today, you can easily use that Akamai Edge Grid authentication package, which are available on the Akamai GitHub repositories. Now, we have support for several languages, including C#, Go, Java, Node.js, Perl, PHP, Python, and Ruby. So on developer.akamai.com/API, you can also find the full API definition for the SIEM API. And as a quick recap on that functionality, basically what you can do is request the security events that have been generated and add in filters such as epoch timestamps or limit the amount of events returned in batches. As mentioned, all security events are returned in a readable JSON format. So let's take a look at the screen right now on how a JSON example actually looks like that was retrieved with the SIEM API. Here you can see the security event with the attack data. Notice the client IP, which the security policy is triggered, the location of the IP address, as well as other elements like the HTTP request, the path, the URL, and the headers that were sent. Now, this can be very helpful when inspecting what security event was triggered and what the attack consisted of. Now, in your SIEM tool, for example, you could run a count based on the IP addresses that can show which IP is generating the most security events. Now, typically, the rule tags will give you a great overview of what type of attack was seen and mitigated by the Akamai Edge server. For example, this can illustrate whether or not it's a SQL injection attack, a cross-site scripting attack, or a bot attack. So let's do a quick recap. A SIEM tool can be extremely useful in every company's cybersecurity arsenal. If you are utilizing Akamai security solutions, you can inject that Akamai-as data in readable JSON format into your SIEM tool with the SIEM integration. Now, it consists of a SIEM collector, which stores your security events for 12 hours, and a SIEM connector, which can be either the Splunk connector, CEF syslog connector, or using the SIEM API. And you can use this to retrieve and inject them right into your SIEM. Now, after explaining what Akamai SIEM integration is and how it can benefit your organization, we will now delve into a set of demos. So let's move away from the visuals and go into demo mode. Of course, if you have any questions, please raise them in the Q&A section on your screen, and we will aim to answer them at the end of the webinar. In the demo today, we will be showcasing the SIEM integration functionality in greater detail. If you are interested in applying this in your own infrastructure, we encourage you to take a look at the examples that are available. And the demo today will showcase the following. Show how to configure the SIEM integration inside of Akamai Control Center. Show how to connect SIEM integration connector to Splunk. Show how to analyze and visualize the data in Splunk. Show how to run a credential abuse attack and visualize that data back into Splunk, as well as show how the SIEM integration API works with Postman. So here we have Akamai Control Center. We're logged in right now, and this is the main screen. And basically what we're going to be doing is going to this hamburger icon, and we're going to be scrolling down to Security Configuration, where we can configure SIEM. So here we have our security configurations, and for today we are going to be adding SIEM integration to developer.akamai.com. Of course, you have to make sure that SIEM is already added to your contract. And what we're basically going to be doing is we're taking the latest version, this is in this case version 22, and we can actually set up SIEM integration under the advanced settings. And as you can see here, right now it's disabled. And here you can see all the settings and actions that you need to do. So you can find more information by clicking the link in documentation. You have to enable it, set certain settings, which we'll go over in a second, and then you have to follow the other steps here, which is basically creating a user with API credentials that can actually get the data and then of course install your connector. So what we're doing now is we're going back to our security versions, and since it's an immutable version 22 has already been deployed to production, we're going to be creating a brand new version based on the latest version production. And you might be able to see this. Basically what this is here, this security configuration is not up to date. One of the rules is actually being updated. So you can make a decision whether or not to add those changes in there, so create a new version and update those rules, or just leave those rules for what it is. But here we have version 23. And again, we're going to the advanced settings, click on SIEM integration, and very simply, just click on enable data collection for SIEM. Now you are able to enable this for just all your policies or just one particular policy. Well, this configuration only has this DAC 2.0 firewall policy. So, we're just gonna, you could just basically create whichever one you want. Next up, you have the ability to select whether or not you want to include your bot manager events. You have a SIEM event version that is just simple, version 1. And here you have this very important ID, which you're going to be needing later on when you're setting it up. So we can copy that. And that's basically it. You turn it on, you select whether or not you want to include the bot manager events, and then we just have to create an actual API client. So what you can do now is you can make other changes if necessary, but basically you can go ahead and just go ahead. You could make another version. You could just go in and activate that particular version. So here we're going to just activate it, version 23. Always forget to add in version notes. Definitely don't forget them to make sure that you and your team are up to date. So we're just going to be writing down adding SIEM integration, to collect the security events. This is also, again, to update the team that, any changes you're making, very helpful. I'm going to be saving those. And then we're going to be moving into the activation tab. If you click on activate, this will load. And again, you have the ability to select your network. You can deploy this to staging. You can deploy this to production. Of course, we recommend to push it to staging first. You have your notification emails. I'm just going to be adding in my colleague Javier, the other developer advocate, to make sure that he knows that we're actually now going to be enabling SIEM integration into developer.akamai.com, which is of course a production website heavily used, so that's why we're pushing this to staging only. Again, we're clicking on activate, and this should nowadays take around 5 to 10 minutes to complete. The activation times for security configurations has been improved quite drastically. So there you go, the request has been sent. And there you go, in 5 to 10 minutes on staging, and of course later on if we push this to production as well, we will actually have SIEM integration up and running. And as you can see, it takes around 5 minutes or so to complete, and it's being pushed to staging. So nothing to it. Basically add it to your contract, go to a new configuration version, click on SIEM integration, and there you go. So we're going to be taking a look at step 2 and 3, which is actually creating a new account. So we have to go again to the hamburger icon, click on identity and access, where we can actually create new SIEMs API. So we're going to click on new API client for me. You'll be asked to assign roles to which groups. So select your groups. In this case, I'm just going to keep it as is, inherit everything. And here you're basically typing in a client name. So we're going to be going for, SIEM_API. You can add in a particular description for what this is used for. So we're typing in Akamai client for using the SIEM API. And then here in filter, or you could scroll, type in SIEM, and that is the SIEM API. And you're going to be having to give that read-write access. Click on submit. And there you go. You have your base URL. This is your Akamai API endpoint that you can send your request to, API access token, but you need credentials as well. So click on new credential, and here you get this set of credentials that you can now use inside of your API keys. So again, make sure your authorization is set to SIEM, read write, and then you are basically good to go. Of course, here you have the documentation for actually installing it into Splunk, which is the next part of our demo. So now that we have enabled SIEM integration and we have these API keys, follow these instructions very carefully. Make sure that you install Java, make sure that you install KV-store in case you're necessary, and check your hardware requirements. It's very important that you have the ability to actually do this, whether it's Windows, Linux, or Mac. And again, make sure that you actually have outbound connection as well. So these are the installation instructions. And you basically need to go to Splunk Base, which is, of course, the sort of app store of Splunk, where you can actually go ahead and download the connector. You can also, of course, go directly to GitHub. So here we have the Splunk Base website. You can find Akamai SIEM integration. Click on download. You have to accept the licensing agreement. So we're going to be going ahead and do that. And there you go. It's a 4 megabyte package that is being downloaded right now. Stored onto my local machine. And then, of course, we will go ahead and see what's next. So the installation instructions here have you go into Splunk, and I have Splunk Enterprise running right here. As you can see, it's a local installation on my machine. Of course, you can use any Splunk Enterprise setup. Go to install, you choose your file, and again, make sure you have Java runtime environment set up. Once you install that, you basically need to restart Splunk Enterprise. So again, very important to have Java runtime environment set up. The SIEM integration is built into Java. If you don't have that running, you will not see the actual option of managing and setting up your Akamai SIEM integration. It will just not appear. So again, very important to have that actually set up. And again, I should mention here, you need to have that set up. So the restart is now successful. So we're going to be logging into my Splunk Enterprise, Akamai mic, password. Let me make sure that I type in the right one. Let me do that again. Apologies. So there we go. We're logging into Splunk Enterprise again, and here you can see we have now Akamai SIEM. So we're going to be launching the app, and basically you get this overview, and you will not get any feedback yet because you haven't integrated your API credentials yet. So we're going to be moving here into the installations. You have to go to your data inputs, so settings, data inputs, and here you see now this option Akamai SIEM API appear. Again, if you don't have Java running, you won't see this. So make sure you have a Java runtime environment up and running. Clicking on new here, and again you see Akamai SIEM API, and here you have actually the host name, you have the security configuration, the client token, client secret, access token all in there. You have your log level, which you could set to, debug or info. We'll leave it at info for now. And just, other information that you can see. So you can click on next. And there we go. We have Akamai SIEM integration with Splunk up and running. I will now hand it over to AJ, who is going to be running a live attack and injecting that into Splunk.
Hi, good morning. Today I'll be demonstrating attacks and protection through SIEM. So first of all, I'm Director of Security Strategy of Asia Pacific and Japan for Akamai, where I run and execute strategies to protect our customers throughout APJ by consulting them with Akamai security products and services. Also, I am evangelizing in cybersecurity threats where hackers are becoming seriously superior than defensive strategy overall in current threat landscape. So today I will talk on security information and event management, SIEM events generated backed by a demo of actual widely distributed credential stuffing attacks, while hackers can misuse already available billions of user ID and password in the dark web. Credential stuff attacks are becoming easy to launch and hard to protect. In this demo, I have a target login page fronted by Akamai Bot Manager Premier product to demonstrate these security events it generates, which can be used to build a smarter threat intelligence platform within a corporate by visualizing the threats. So I will run a attack against a login page which has been built on PHP programming language. So my attack tool is built on the Python script, and all these attacks are going through Akamai so it can catch those events. Now these events are in monitor mode, means that the attacks is going through Akamai and we are not protecting it. It's in alert mode, but if we deny it, all of them will be denied. So that's understanding here. So just for the sake of visibility, I'm letting that attack to go all the way from the client through Akamai to origin. So without any further delay, let me start that what we have to demonstrate here. So first of all, in a Splunk, I have built for this today's event a dashboard where the attacks will be coming in different types, and it will be originating from very different countries. As you saw in credential stuffing attacks, can be generated from all over the world. So this too will be over the time, and the down will be a aggregated part of the pie charts that where that origin of attacks are happening and what kind of attacks that is happening. I also have put the live raw events. So all of them will be popping out after we attack that, and we'll see that. So what tool we are using is, of course, we are using Python, and this Python code is programmed as this will take this data, user ID and password, and I have also put just for intentionally some of the SQL injections. So there were like 28 attacks, and these 28 attacks will be passing through all the way from client to Akamai all the way to origin. So you will see that some of the attacks will get success, definitely some of them will be failure, and it will be coming out very different parts of the world than what I have simulated out. So, and also I would like to demonstrate through this attack that how easy it is to attack and how hard it will be to protect. So I further do, I have a lots of attacks menu here, but I'm going to get low and slow. But let's talk about low and slow. Most of the attackers are attacking credential stuffing attack. They want to be under the radar. They don't want to get detected. So they come from the low and slow that what we have seen in Akamai platform. So here what I'll be doing, I'll be putting interval for each attack just by 1 second. Now you can put a month, a year, it doesn't matter. It's very easy to do it. But for the protection side, it's a very hard requirement to get that thing protected. So let's go with this, and now let's see each of them are getting attacked. And if you see all these IP addresses are different from each other. So what's happening, each user ID and password getting inserted from a different distributed IP addresses, and it is getting resulted in the failure. But some of them is getting passed here. I also intentionally put some of the JavaScript inside it, SQLs. So you might see in very down, one of that SQL injection is getting succeeded as well. And also the etc password, which can be used to steal that etc password from that Linux based, is also being used here. So now I put this attacks all the way. As I say, this attack is crossing from the client all the way through Akamai all the way to the origin. Now let's see what kind of data we have from the Splunk side. So it's 10 minutes and nothing is coming out. So last 10 minutes. Now let me just do and some refreshing here. It just started to come out. So all the different kinds of attacks through this. So it's at 10 minutes. Let's make me also very near time. Perhaps 5 minutes will be easier. So exactly I did this attack at 9:11 a.m. and these attacks are keep on going on. Now you can see by the linear time the two sort of attacks happened, and it is distributed in a very different part of the world. Majority of attack that I have simulated is from the US. Now it is from France. Now we have Korea. You have a very in China and different part of the world. And here, without any doubt, there is some SQL injections, and there is user behavior. What we have from the bottom as a premier. Now I can go few attacks down, and you can drill down some of that attack data. So in this attack data, there is a lot of Akamai rules are getting propagated, detected, and that comes all the way in this smaller part of that message. So if I go down, so one more time, go up, rules. So the third one here, it says session cookie missing. Why it says session cookie missing? is very simple because the bot is coming from a script, and that script doesn't check any sessions in it and is keep on attacking just a mercenary attacks. So that's why we see that little cookie missing is coming in our detection methods. So from this entire presentation, what I would like to make my point is the attacks are easier to launch and very hard to protect. But having this kind of SIEM visualizing these attacks all the way gives you the visibility that where the attacks are coming from, why someone is attacking you, how they are attacking you, which part of your application they are attacking you. So many intelligence can have here, and we can build a threat intelligence, and based on this, which will be easier for the executives to judge what next should be done, and that is the case all the way. So thank you very much for these live presentations, and I hope you enjoy it. Any question you have, I'm ready to take it, or you can send me or Mike, and we can take from there. Thank you very much.
Whoa, thank you very much, AJ, for showing how you can easily retrieve Akamai's data in real time, but also show how easy it is to launch a credential abuse attack nowadays. Very interesting. Now, this should serve as a great eye-opener for everybody out there. And of course, as you mentioned, if you or anybody have any questions about credential abuse attacks or SIEM integration, please let us know in the Q&A widget on your screen. While we will give you several minutes to get your final questions in, let's talk about the best practices with Akamai SIEM integration. If you are using the Splunk connector, please ensure that you follow the steps outlined in the integration documentation, which you can find in the resources section on your screen. When it comes to installing the connector, it is important to have the required software up and running, like Java runtime environment. We discussed common challenges that customers have faced with our security professional services team, and they verified that one of the most common use cases or challenges is indeed missing one of those steps in the integration process. Now, while we currently have the Splunk and CEF syslog connectors available, you can also utilize the SIEM API to send the logs to a service in your environment. If your SIEM is able to connect on HTTPS and has the ability to interpret JSON format, then you are good to go. And if this is not the case, you can always use an intermediary tool that retrieves the logs, or you can transform JSON in another format that works with your SIEM. We will be sharing a SIEM API with Postman video later as well. Now, finally, while not immediately tied to SIEM integration, we of course highly recommend keeping your Akamai security configurations up to date with the latest rule sets. This will help you protect yourself against new vulnerabilities. We recommend you to follow again developer.akamai.com or sign up to get the latest tutorials on DevSecOps, including those on how to keep your security configurations up to date with the Akamai developer tools, which we will be sharing in the upcoming weeks. Now, we hope that in this webinar, we have succeeded in explaining the value of a SIEM and how Akamai SIEM integration can help you with retrieving and analyzing the security events that Akamai generates for you, and help you with mitigating those security threats easier, or at the very least, keep up to date on the attacks that are happening in your infrastructure. Again, we highly recommend to use the webinar resources listed on your screen. On developer.akamai.com, you can find detailed information on how to configure Akamai SIEM integration, as well as other detailed tutorials, for instance, for configuring the SIEM integration with Splunk, with syslog, or the custom connector. Now, this concludes the main part of the webinar. We want to thank you very much, but of course, we are going to be continuing answering your questions in the Q&A, and thank you for the excellent questions raised so far. Now, after we answer a few questions, AJ and I, we will be available afterwards as well. So stick around. We are going to be answering your questions either verbally or in the chat. Thank you for your time today, and I will hand it back to Rachel to ask the questions. Rachel, please go ahead.